Oh, you're muted.
There you go. I'm ready, John.
All right, let's rock this, man. I'm super excited to chat with you, man. And you know what? There's a lot of mindsets going on in a busy market right now. But oh, it is 11 o'clock. Let's get this thing started. So, welcome everyone to the Power Half Hour every Wednesday at 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I interview a top performer, top agent, someone who's doing extraordinary things. And today, I'm super excited to interview my coach, my business partner, Mr. John Toublaris out of Toronto, Canada. Welcome.
Thank you, John. Thank you for having me here. It's always a pleasure to be in the same call with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to jump right into it. So John has been selling real estate since how long in Toronto?
Since 2005, so it's been 16 years this year.
16 years. Wow. So, John's a top producer and he transitioned to being a coach after about 10 years in the business. And he's coaching full time, but he's also selling. And John has an amazing story. So why don't you tell us a bit about how you started and how you got to this point, John?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just first getting into real estate. I remember my parents looking at a home back when I was 5 years old, and I said, "Wow, this looks pretty good." And that was back when I was 5 years old. And of course, at 16 years old, I started going around sketching homes in my neighborhood. And of course, I thought I was going to be like an architect at that point. But then, of course, I started sketching people's homes and I started going door to door at like 15, 16 years old. And I was collecting $2 bills. Back here in Canada, we had $2 bills at that time. And I thought, I was like, wow, I'm rich here, getting $2, $1, 25 cents, picking up a quarter here and there. And, that sort of like started getting my mind and hence for real estate. And when I was 18, 19 years old, people asked me in school, they said, hey, what are you going to do when you get out of school and you go get a job and all that? I said, well, I don't want to get a job. I actually want to have my own business. And of course, doing garage sales and lemonade stands and all that. It was an entrepreneurial drive from a very young age. And at that age, at 22 years old, 21, 22 years old, I started going there for real estate. And at 23 years old, I jumped in and there I was getting started in real estate. So that's how I got started. And that was the journey to get started.
Oh, nice. That's amazing, man. So, everybody has a story and, so tell me about the 10 years. You obviously had did you have a good start or a rough start to real estate?
I wish I can say good.
Okay. Tell us a bit about that, because a lot of us are a little bit newer on this call and, everybody's kind of going through something. So do share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. At 23 years old, there I was getting started and, I just came out of that whole phase to going out and, partying and drinking and eating and all the good foods and all that. And, I remember my first year, I only sold about 2 or 3 homes. I did about 12, 15 leases in my first home. And I said, wow, this is a lot of work doing all these leases. And, and I remember my first sale was actually a divorce case. And it was a really rough first sale. And I stood to my broker, my manager, and I go, is this how real estate was supposed to be, like this rough and people angry and mad at you? And I was 23 years old, of course, at that point. And then after that, I sold a couple of homes after that, but I really put myself in a lot of debt, actually. I remember being $120,000 in debt, $80 left in my name. Whoa. And I remember I was on a Saturday night, about 11 o'clock, 11:30 at nighttime. And I remember I was sitting in my car and I was sitting there. I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even have a phone. I was so embarrassed. I was making calls out of my parents' house because I couldn't afford even my own bills. And I remember at that point there, I went to my parents' home. It was 11:30 at night and I was in my mid-20s. And I said to them, I go, look, I remember walking up to the house. They opened the house. Of course, any child that, anyone's son that goes to the house at that time, it's Saturday night, you're thinking like, well, what's going on, right? And I remember my parents watching television there in the living room, and I said to them, I turned to them, and it was the first time I was actually vulnerable in front of my parents, especially in front of my father, who had more of a strong European thing to him, where it was like a strong facade, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember turning to him, and I said, Dad, I really need to borrow $500, right? And he said, you know what, son, I can't give it to you. And he went down the hallway to his bedroom. And I remember chasing him down the hallway. And I said, Dad, I just need $500. I got to make some payments here. And he said, no, son, I can't do that. And he closed the bedroom door. Wow. And I said, I was knocking on the door. And I was like, Dad, please, just $500. That's all I need. I swear, I'm going to give it back to you. And he turned to me and he goes, by when? And I said, oh, shit, accountability. Yeah. And it was one of the things I was resisting and avoiding for so long, especially, of course, in my teens. I never wanted to do anything with accountability. I get into real estate. I don't want to do anything with accountability. And so he goes, by when? I go, I promise you, I'll give it to you on my first sale. And that's where he said, he goes, okay, well, by when? And I said, I promise within 60 days, within 2 months. And I remember at that time, I turned to my friend George, and George was a very successful entrepreneur. And he said, well, how many calls are you going to make? Right. And I said, calls. I don't want to call my database. I mean, I'm too young. Right. I just got started. I mean, who's going to trust me? Who's going to believe me with their biggest form of real estate? So it was a lot of, as my friend Matthew Ferry in this business say, drunk monkey. Right. And, so all those thoughts were going through my mind. I'm going to bother the people in my database. Probably not, not good enough, and all those crazy thoughts going in my mind. And, since then, I was making my calls every day. And I proved to my friend George that in the first day that calling your database doesn't work. And he goes to me, well, do it again. And so I called my second day, and he goes, well, do it again. And then I found somebody that actually wanted to buy real estate. Actually, I helped them buy the real estate, made about $11,500.
Wow.
And then I went to my father, and I remember, it gets me quite emotional just thinking about that, because I remember turning to my father and saying, hey, here's the money, here's the $500, but then here's another 500 on top.
Wow.
Right?
That's amazing, man.
And I just remember that day, right?
Thank you for sharing, man. That's amazing. You must be so proud.
Yeah, no, definitely. What I really learned from that is that, accountability does work. And, got to take 100% full responsibility for yourself in your life.
Absolutely.
No one's going to come. And, sure, my father came once, but you know what? It's not always the time like that. It's what I realized out of that whole thing is that, it's up to me.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to create my life, if I'm going to create real estate, if I'm going to create whatever it is, if it's to be, it's up to me. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned. I learned that accountability works. I learned that, you got to take 100% responsibility for yourself in your life. That's why anyone I coach right now, I don't let them off the hook. I don't care what your story is. I don't care what your circumstance is. I don't care what it is. Like, if I can do that, anyone can get out of anything.
Absolutely, man. And wow, this is I think the first time you've ever shared this with me. So thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that. It's truly touching. And I could see the passion of you coaching your clients, because you're coming from the heart. Like, with your story, I know like you want to help them get out of that situation. I mean, guys, who's been in $120,000 worth of debt? That's a lot of money to pay back. And man, just congratulations on that, to get out of that hole. So it wasn't an easy start, John. Wasn't an easy start. So, let's talk a little bit about how did you get through that? So 120,000, what was going on through your mind, and how did you break through those, what you call mindset barriers to go to the next level and pay off all that debt?
It's being surrounded by people that really care about you, people that really love you, and people that really want you to do the best. And, environment makes a huge, huge difference, right? And after that, before I was avoiding accountability, after that, I wanted more accountability. And I remember my friend Peter, and I wrote this in my book as well. And I remember my friend Peter said, okay, great. Well, what's next, right? Yeah, you sold the home, but then what's next? When are you going to get rid of those lousy clothes of yours? And I said, well, what's wrong, right? Like, man, that looks like you got it from like Le Chateau or something, I mean, look, nothing wrong with Le Chateau. Some people may love it. I don't know if that company still exists, but, that was the type of clothes. So then I said, yeah, you know what? I've got to upgrade. And then, of course, the mentors and coaches along the way said, well, you got to upgrade. You got to upgrade, a lot of things in your life. And then people were just holding me more accountable. And I was just sharing my goals. I was declaring my goals with people around me. But it wasn't just anyone. It was just people around me that I knew that they cared about me. And so when I did that, I was then accountable. Then I remember I was driving my old Toyota Corolla. And they said, well, when are you going to get rid of that? And I said, well, what's wrong with it? Because my mindset wasn't upgraded at that point, right? And then I remember I got my first nicer car. It was a nice BMW. And it was my friend Peter that took me from the hand and said, hey, we're going down to the dealership. I go, but I don't have the money. It's like, no. You first need to visualize it. You first need to create it in your mind. You need to put it on your vision board. You need to create it, feel it, see it, hear everything. And I say, wow, that's so true. So he took me to a VIP party. And I remember I got my vehicle. And I remember at that point, I was like, wow, this feels so good. He goes, yeah, how does it feel sitting in there? So this feels so good. I want it. And that's where I got it. And then at that point, started making more sales and more sales and more sales. But it wasn't because of the experience I went through that I really got that lesson, right? And then that's how I started breaking through a lot of these barriers. And which I then, of course, as you know, you read the book, I started documenting it into my book, right?
Yeah. And guys, stay till the end. Obviously, we John, you have a special gift for the crowd?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So make sure you stay till the end here. But so I wanted to, hear a little bit about specifically, how did you get out of that mindset of scarcity into abundance, because he told you to upgrade and whatnot, but it's scary. It's scary to go from, where you're at, you have no money, to like the next step and the next step and the next step. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, I never went from like zero to hero, right? Like it was just small increments to my mind. I had to stop looking what other people were doing. Yeah, they were selling 100 homes a year and they had the Bentleys and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, that's good for them. I mean, it's nice to look at that. But I remember one of my mentors said, just take one step at a time. I remember there's a great quote I believe it's by Zig Ziglar, says, go as far as you can see. And when you get there, you will see even further, right? And that's the same approach I took. So I started upgrading my wardrobe. I remember that I then moved out of my parents' place, right? That was another step for me. So yeah, the wardrobe, the car, stepping out of my parents' place. So there were just small, tiny little increment shifts that I was making, upgrades, changes that I was making. So it wasn't going from zero to hero, it was just going to small. So as long as I was doing that, I felt good about myself, because again, what I've learned along the way is that, progress, leads to fulfillment.
Right? Progress leads to fulfillment.
Leads to fulfillment.
Yeah. And John, a lot of agents that I talked to today, myself included, honestly, I want a quantum leap. I don't want to take the time to go from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, and then eventually to 100. What would you say to the agents that are trying to, catapult themselves immediately? What would you say to that?
Yeah. So the one thing that works for my life and still does is there's a couple of things. Number one is you've got to put something at stake, right? A lot of people come to me, they give me a call and they say, hey, I have a mindset issue. I said, no, you don't. You just don't have nothing at stake. You don't have something that's juicy, worthwhile, fulfilling, that's going to pull you out of bed every single day. And you can't stop thinking about it when you go to bed at night, right? So when you have that, when you have something at stake, it will just, you'll keep thinking about it. You'll be obsessed about it. And, you just keep pulling you forward, because as everyone's heard here, when you have a strong enough why, you can accomplish any how. So it's really getting connected to what your why is, what your purpose is, what your mission is, what is your vision, right? And yeah, goals will get you from here to there, but then you're always thinking, well, now what? So I always tell my coaching clients and people that I coach, I said, well, make sure you create a vision, because that vision just carries on and just keeps going, and you'll constantly just be pulled by that vision, and it'll surpass. You'll along the way, you'll be hitting your goals along the way as you're being pulled by your vision, right? So that I would say is the big one, and that's like the first one that I would say over there. And the second one, of course, what goes like that, clarity, right? Clarity is power. And then the third one, which I documented it in my book, is letting go of the mindset barriers. There's a great quote out there that goes, what's in the way of an open mind is usually what's already in it. So rather than just keep adding stuff, knowledge on top of knowledge on top of knowledge, all this kind of stuff, it lives within the confines of that same mind that created all that stuff. So for me, for example, I had to let go a lot of the stuff. So it's not adding, but it's actually let go. And for me, I had to let go of who was I being, right? Wow. And for me, it's like, who I was being before is I was being irresponsible, right? So then I was like, okay, now I got to be responsible, right? So what does that look like every day? Well, being like that every day means following through on my calls, setting the number of appointments I promised my coach I was going to fulfill on, right? And the next point I would say, after that is I would say, how do you break through the mindset barriers, which again, I documented in my book, is, how do you break through procrastination, fear of rejection, overcoming the procrastination, perfectionism, fear of following up, and all those kind of things that when I spoke to my coach, I thought I was the only one dealing with that, right?
Yeah, so I hear this a lot, John, is I don't want to make that call again to my database because one of them did not give me a great response. I'm like, just because it happened once just doesn't mean it'll happen in the future. How do you let that past conditioning go?
Yeah, great question. And I get these questions a lot, especially with people, these conditioning and programming levels, right? Well, first of all, you got to understand that, John, people are motivated in two ways, right? Either to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. Those are the only two primary motivators in the universe. Doesn't matter if you're from India, Australia, Canada, US, it doesn't matter where you're from. Now, with that in mind, people will do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure, just a human condition, right? There's a couple of tools that I would say you can do. And what I usually ask is these types of questions. And it's usually to shift the belief that a lot of the agents have. And one of the questions I ask is I say, well, because that one person did that or said that, do you feel or do you believe that all the 400 people in your database will do the same? Mm-hmm. And what happens there is just a little bit of a shift. Right. And they say, well, no, not really. Oh, okay. But again, we're not taking from 0 to hero, just a little bit of a shift right there. Bit,
yeah. Wow.
Right. And then once they say, well, no, not really, I say, well, why not? Now they are trying to convince me now.
Right. Wow.
So then the people that I'm coaching, so rather than me, because then their mind's going to block it. So now I shift that around on them. Of course, studying NLP for so many years. Then I say, well, why is that? And they say, well, because John, I don't think everyone's like that. I think people are nice. It's just that it happened to that one person. And here's the person talking, right? And I say, great. Well, let me ask you this then, right? Just a series of questions. What has to happen for you to feel safe again now? And they say, well, I think I just call the next person. I say, I agree.
But you didn't tell them to do that. They told you.
And
Wow.
that's the problem with a lot of coaches, right? They'll tell people what to do,
Mm.
but then there's resistance. If they come up with the answers, if the coaching client feels good with their answers, the percentage of the actions goes much higher than if I were to tell them or offer to tell you, because it came from within their creation, not from me telling them, right?
That's amazing. Guys, listen to this. I mean, if it came from you, just like clients, if you ask questions and it comes from them, it's sold. But if you tell them stuff, just like coaching client and an agent, coaching an agent, it's that if we tell the student, the agent, they will resist, right? So how else do you get us to break through this year, do you think? Because we have a lot of, I'll tell you a couple of situations that I've been in, and a couple stories that agents have told me. Number one is I made some money, John. I made some money last year. It's started really strong this year. I don't want to prospect, or like I don't know why I'm not prospecting. And then the other one is, although the market was great, I didn't really have a good finish and a good start to 2021. Like we're in like these couple of places. What advice would you have for the audience here to have them break through either complacency or apathy?
Yeah, well, I'll take one at a time here. So in terms of complacency, right? Here's the thing. Again, people will do more to avoid pain to gain pleasure. So in terms of the motivating factors, I would say, well, what is it costing you in your life right now to be complacent?
What is it costing you right now to be complacent? Well, I guess
Yeah,
we
what is it costing you in your life right now? Is it costing you your happiness, your peace of mind, more money in the bank, whatever is important to you, right? The second question I would say to that is that who else in your life that means a lot to you
Mm,
is it impacting by you being complacent?
wow, you're drilling in on that pain, John.
Yeah,
Wow.
because
Okay.
why? Because people will do more to avoid pain and gain pleasure. And I get a lot of people saying, "Oh my gosh, my spouse, my wife, my husband, my
Mm,
children. I'm a single mother. I got 2 children, or 1 child, or 3 kids, and wow, if I don't get moving, then they're going to be impacted." And I say, "Great. Well, how are they going to be impacted?" And I get a lot of people say, "Well, I don't want to go there." I said, "That's exactly where we need to go."
oh, yeah.
That's exactly where we need to go. So it goes out of the mind of knowingness and going to the feeling, and what is that experience? Because once I take you, once how it feels for you, guess what the person, and I get realtors say this all the time, "Okay, John, I get it. I'm doing it." I go, "What are you going to do?" They go, "That's it. I'm picking up the phone. I'm calling." "You don't have to." "Why?"
Mm.
Like, no, I just crazy. It's going to impact my family, my spouse, my child, whoever the case may be, because now they just linked. So it's creating these neurons, these linkage from what is it, and then you're seeing it, but also connecting it with what's more painful. Now, of course, not going to let them hang out there. Is the next step is, well, what is that going to do for you? How will that make you feel about yourself? And they say, well, that's going to make me feel great. Then all of
Right.
a sudden you see their face softening, their shoulders going back, their postures is sitting up. It's amazing what's happening to the chemical reaction in their bodies, right?
Wow. Guys, so what do we have at stake? And ask yourself this question, like, who else am I impacting by me not taking action and by me staying in complacency? It's not just about yourself. Sometimes, you know what? We're good ourselves. If you don't do anything with your business right now, you'll be good. But who else are you impacting? Drill in on that. Okay, great. So complacency. What about the other side? Is like, oh man, woe is me. You know what? Didn't have a great start. Haven't had a transaction for a couple months, although the market is hot. Oh, what do I do, John?
Yeah, well, here's what I say. You can't put toothpaste back into the tube,
Okay, that's right.
right? You can't. What is left has left.
Right.
The only moment you got is right now.
Mm.
So you got to be okay and, just acknowledge that, hey, I sold one home last year. I sold 10 homes last year. I sold 30 homes. I said 50. Okay, got it. Here's the thing. You got to let go of the meaning that you attach to things.
Ooh.
Okay. When you attach a meaning, like, oh my gosh, that went wrong. And this means I'm not good enough. No, it's just the numbers didn't get met. Now you're creating everything else that comes after.
Right.
So imagine the freedom that you'll experience when you let go of the meaning that you attach to things. So that's what I would say. You got to let go of the meaning that you attach to things, and just acknowledge, not for worse than it is, but just acknowledge the what so.
Acknowledge.
And now say, great, I got the what so. Now I'm creating from here. Right? You can't move forward looking in the rear view mirror of the car.
That kind of links back to what we started with, is that, whatever bad experiences that you've had in the past, don't carry to the future. So you got to let that go, acknowledge that it happened, let it go. And then now we get to create newly everything you want. Everything you want is over here in the new, and then let that all go. But if you carry the past into the future, you're going to create the same exact results. So if you had a bad Q4 and not so good Q1 to start, let it go. It's already in the past. And now what do we get to create? We get to choose. But a lot of times, John, this part here, we make a lot of stories about it, right? How do we, I don't know, we make up so much meaning.
Yeah, well, the first one is awareness, right? Bob Proctor, he lives here in Toronto, a great mentor of mine for many years. And Bob even told me, he's like, there's 7 different levels of awareness, right? For the first level, all the way up to mastery level. But the third thing is, you just got to be at least mindful or aware of it. And it comes through a lot of practicing and just constant practicing on a daily basis, what you need to let go of, the meaning and the stories. And by the way, there's a chapter in my book that is called, I believe it's chapter 3. It's called, letting go of the stories that cost you millions.
Ooh,
right?
I love that.
So letting go of the false assumptions that you constantly create in your mind that cost you millions of dollars. For others, it may cost you your peace of mind and happiness.
$1 million stories, guys. Really? Okay. Well, now I know I got to read your book again, John. What do you have for the crowd? I mean, if we were to take this today, what would be one thing that we can take from today to have us, break out and break through the mindset barriers and create the best year of their lives?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just typed it in the chat here. Download a copy of the book unleashed.com. You can get a free copy. You can just go to Amazon as well if you want the physical copy of it. But you can download there. And also, I'm providing a free strategy session. I've only got, I'm going to give away 7 free strategy sessions here today for those of you. So if you want to just send me an email here, and just type it in the chat, and then you can just the book. And so
Anna's already on. So I want, she says. So email John, guys, for a free strategy.
So during this session, I'll basically, I'll find out a little bit more about you. I'll find out where your blockage is, and then I'll just give you some simple tools to help you relieve that, and get you to the next level. Talk about your goals, what's important to you, and how to really just to break through those. And it's gonna be a great session, and looking forward to helping more people.
Guys, only 7 spots available, right? So email John. John, that's awesome, man. Thank you for all your contribution, and it's been amazing working with you for the past year and a half, and I can't wait to grow together. Any last words for the audience?
Yeah, you know what? Acknowledge yourselves for for what you're doing every day. I know it's a tough business, being in the real estate business. But there's 2 experiences that you can only come from. There's the experience of fear or the experience of love. And when you come from love and gratitude, that's where things have become a lot more easier, a lot more lighter for yourself and the people that you work with. So come from gratitude, love yourself, love everyone around you, and be great. Really, just be great, and acknowledge yourself for everything that you've done up to this point and for what you're doing, and give yourself a pat on the back, because you guys are awesome for being here. So that's what I would say.
Wow, thank you, John. Thank you. I love myself. I love you. I love everybody here. Come from love, guys. I appreciate you being here today, man. Phenomenal session. And guys, reach out to John and book those sessions with him. John, thank you so much for today. And
awesome, John. Thank you for having me here.
All right,
Really
guys.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Cheers.
you.